So I bought this shirt at the height of my Stranger Things addiction, which was like a week ago. If you go on Etsy, because I'm sure people are going to ask, just go on Etsy and search up Eddie Munson and you will find this shirt. There's a lot of them. There's a lot. I just can't help that I become obsessed with things and then I want to be my whole personality and then I get over it and it's like whatever. But that is not the point of this video. Hey y'all, I am back and I have more Let's Not Meet stories that I'm super excited to read. I actually decided to go to the actual Let's Not Meet subreddit this time instead of my own subreddit. I just wanted to see, because I was like looking at the top stories and they're just so crazy, like I have to share them. And I love the stories that you guys send me, do not get me wrong, but sometimes it's nice to just go back to the source, you know what I mean? We're gonna hop right in because I have a long ramble. I have a long ramble at the end of this video. I feel like it's gonna be like a 10-minute ramble, I don't know. But I feel like I have a lot to say, so I'm gonna hop right in. This first story says, I'm confident I would have become a missing persons case. I apologize in advance since I'm not a good writer, but I'll do my best to share my experience. To better paint the picture, here's a description of myself at the time of the incident. 3 years ago. 5'5", 26-year-old woman, medium-length bleach blonde hair, curvy, 175 pounds, wearing black high-waisted tights and a pink crop top. 3 years ago, I was walking home late at night from my friend's house. It was dark, and at the time, I lived in a rough part of a large city. I've had many sketchy situations that I've gotten myself out of, so I guess I felt sort of invincible, like nothing truly scary could happen to me. When I walk alone, I always stay very alert and aware of my surroundings for my own safety, just in case. About halfway home and roughly 10 minutes to my apartment, I noticed a van started tailing me. I was used to this since in my city it's very common for a young woman in a rough area to get propositioned for sex. It's embarrassing how desensitized I was to this. I did my usual and crossed the road so that I would be walking beside the traffic heading in the other direction. I wasn't scared, just annoyed. The van then turned down a side street, then back onto the road I was on and pulled up to me. At this point I still wasn't scared. Again, this has happened so many times and it never mattered if I was wearing something that showed more skin, or if I was wearing a winter coat zipped from just below my chin all the way down to my ankles. That area is notorious for this type of activity. I decided to be firm and told the person sternly, I'm not interested. I noticed there were two men in the van. They looked almost identical and may have been twins or brothers. Both men had a very, very dark complexion, dark eyes, and short dark hair. The van didn't move. I was super annoyed and crossed the road again to get away. At this point I figured this would be enough for them to stop following me. They didn't. They kept circling back every time I crossed the road. I've never had to put that much effort into getting a horny pervert to leave me alone, so this is when I started feeling unsafe. They zipped by me at the speed the traffic was flowing in and I yelled for them to fuck off. I thought it finally worked. It had been 3 minutes and I hadn't seen the van, so I thought I was in the clear. Just in case, I pulled my phone out and was getting ready to call my sister that I lived with. Just then, the van pulled up to me very quickly, and before I could even blink, one of the men jumped out of the van, opened the back door, and approached me quickly in an aggressive manner as if he was about to scoop me up and throw me into the vehicle. The traffic in that area is very inconsistent. It was dead, and I imagine this is what they were waiting for. Just as the man was about to place his hands on me, I tilted my phone and said, "You're being filmed in my live video chat. I gave my friends your license plate number and the police have been notified." I was so scared, but I did not let that show. I stayed as calm as I could. The man paused, like he was considering if I was bluffing or telling the truth, so I tilted my phone more as if to give the fake audience a better look at him. He then jumped in the van and they sped off. I have never been the same since that night. I'm afraid of walking alone now, even in daytime. Stay safe out there. Two creeps in a van, let's not ever meet. I hope karma finds you both soon. Dude, it's just like, that's exactly what they were waiting for. They were waiting for traffic to die down. That's exactly what was happening. And you're so smart. You are so smart. I think I would just scream and start crying and like piss myself. And maybe that would deter them, I don't know. But I think I would genuinely shit my pants and then just like start running in the opposite direction, which probably wouldn't do much for me. But you are so smart. That's why I like reading these too, because I feel like they give really good insight as to like what you should do. I get insight as to what you shouldn't do. I just tell you to leave when your house is haunted, and I tell you to shit your pants when people are trying to kidnap you. I'm horrible with advice. This next story says, I escaped an intruder by playing along. TLDR, I escaped a man who broke into my home who had been stalking me for months, but we're gonna read the whole thing. In 2014, I moved to England from Canada to gain work and travel experience and also to find myself. I ended up living in Essex with 3 other roommates. They were all women, all a bit older than I was. I was 24 at the time. Megan was 31, Cherry was 34, and Cassie was 38. Megan was from New York, Cherry was from New Jersey, and Cassie from Poland. All 4 of us shared this 3-story flat. The back of our home was the living room and kitchen, the back wall was complete glass that looked into our garden, the garden was completely fenced in. The house had an interesting dynamic to say the least. Tons of stories from that time in my life. I adored all my roommates except for Cherry. After living with Cherry for 7 months, I was over her antics. One day I come home from work, I lock the door, make myself something to eat, and go up to bed. I brought some work home with me, so I'm in my nightie with all these papers around me and my headphones on, jamming out. I had headphones on because Cherry was out to dinner with work friends, which meant booze, and then soon after that, a tantrum was surely to come. I just didn't want to have to listen to her crazy scream crying. I'm working away, completely focused until I feel something. I look up to see a man standing over me. I don't register it right away and passively say, Cherry's room is on the second floor, and continue to work. Cherry regularly brought strange men home. He doesn't leave. Again, Cherry's room is downstairs, He then interrupts. I'm not here for Cherry. A cold chill iced my veins. My fight or flight kicked in just then. I started surveying the situation. I look him up and down. He has a bottle of Prosecco in one hand and a knife in the other. He is about 5'10", wild, muddy brown hair and black eyes. He has a light blue polo shirt on, and one side of his collar is popped up in a distinct Manchester accent. Once I focused in, I realized his eyes were black because his pupils were completely dilated. Shit. I was in trouble. I needed an escape plan. Unfortunately, this man was standing in between me and my bedroom door. I needed to get downstairs, but I needed for him to think it was his idea. I decided to play along. Just then, he uses his knife to pop the cork. Prosecco started flowing onto my carpet. I said, oh no, let's clean that up. I prefer to drink out of a proper flute anyways. He nodded, replying, yeah, you're a proper classy bird. Let's go. I try to act as natural as possible. I try not to show that I'm shaking all over and try to gain control of my breathing. We take the long journey down to the main floor of my flat, all 3 floors. He has the back of my nightie bunched up in one hand, and I could feel the point of the knife graze my back with his other. I was trying to playfully speak with him as we walked down the stairs. I couldn't tell you what I was saying. I was most likely rambling. I couldn't hear anything over my heart beating in my ears. We get to the bottom of the stairs, and there's a hallway to my left that leads to the front door. On my right, which is much closer to us, is the kitchen and living room. We make our way into the kitchen. I point to the cabinets that had the wine glasses. He said he knew where they were and started towards them. I now had the kitchen table in between us. It was time to run. I burst into a sprint down the hallway towards the door. My hands fumble over the locks, shaking and sweating. I swing open the door and see 2 men walking across the street. They must have been walking home from the train. There was a big train station in front of our home. I call out to them for help, and suddenly I am flung onto the ground. Little pebbles piercing my skin sent sharp pains where they jabbed. The intruder pushed me out of the way to run and escape. One of the men chased after the intruder while the other said for me to go inside while he surveyed my home and to call the police. I lock the doors and I call the police. While I'm on the phone with dispatch, I manically run around the house to double check all the windows and doors. Suddenly, I hear a loud bang on my door. I inform the dispatch of the banging, and she informs me police were not there yet. Thought it might be one of the gentlemen who helped me. I go look out of the eye hole, and it's him, the intruder. He came back. He's banging on my door, screaming that I had his glasses and that he was not done with me. I absolutely freak out. The dispatcher attempts to calm me down, but I am losing my ever-loving mind. She then said, they're pulling onto your street now. You should hear their sirens. I did. Thank God. The intruder then blasts off. One officer jumps out of the passenger side while the car is still moving and chases after him. The second officer comes into my home, interviews me and the 2 gentlemen, collects evidence, takes photos. After some time of him being there, Cherry comes home and freaks out. Once the situation was explained to her, she said, oh my God, that could have been me. Yeah, thanks, Cherry. It's all about you. The next morning, I'm called in to identify a man they had in custody. I pointed him out. I go into a little room and the officer pulls out an evidence bag. He asked me if any of the items were mine. They were. They were my underwear and photos taken from my home. The officer informed me that the intruder had been stalking me for some time now. He estimates 3 months. He had made a nest outside of our home on top of a hill that looked into our living room and kitchen. He is a known sex offender and drug dealer. He then told me how lucky I was to get out practically unharmed, because others weren't so lucky. To the man who stalked me and broke into my home, let's not meet again. However, I would love to run into those 2 gentlemen again. Every day I am thankful for them. Like the trauma, the absolute fucking trauma. And it's like, this happens every day. This shit happens every single day. There are these people are alive and doing this stuff every single day. I just like, what is going on in your fucking brain? What? I don't understand. I am so sorry that happened to you. Oh my God. Like, every time I revisit Let's Not Meet or read your guys' Let's Not Meet stories, I'm just like brought to this place where I'm scared of the world. Just like do not understand people. I don't. Okay, and this is the last story I'm gonna read. It says, never that safe. Okay, this happened in 2016 when I was a 17-year-old first-year college student in film school. I'm now 22, female, and my name is Julia. I lived alone in my first ever apartment. It was really small, but I was really proud of my independence. I never felt unsafe in this apartment for several reasons. There were multiple gates in the residence that needed to be opened through a code only the people who lived there knew. My door had 3 different locks, and it was right next to the university, so most people who lived in the neighborhood were college students. Nothing bad ever happened in the neighborhood before. I've always been very careful with locking the door when I leave my home. I always check twice. I have slight OCD. So this one time, I leave to go to class and lock my door, but for some reason, I couldn't get the key out of the lock. It was completely stuck, so I went to get the caretaker of the building to help me, but he wasn't there and I was getting late for class. So I went to class with the key still in the lock. I took off the keychain first, so it's not too noticeable. When I get home, the caretaker was back, so he came to help me, and we couldn't get it out for 15 minutes until somehow he did. He told me the lock was damaged, but I didn't necessarily need to change it if I only locked it once instead of twice. I just said okay, and that was the end of it. I really wasn't worried because of how safe I felt in this building. Flash forward to 2 months later. I was taking out the trash one night around 11 p.m. while on the phone with my sister. I remember telling her I was taking out the trash, then that I was going to take a shower afterwards before heading to a party. As I previously said, I always lock the door, even to take out the trash. Because of my lock being damaged, I only locked it once. When I got back to my apartment, I found the door unlocked, which immediately alarmed me. So I went into the apartment and locked the door immediately with 3 different types of locks. When you walk into my apartment, which is just 215 square feet, you have the main room in front of you and the bathroom door immediately to your left. I left the bathroom door slightly open, enough so I could see a man in my shower turning his back to me. Naturally, when I saw this, I tried to open the door and leave as fast as possible, except my main lock was damaged from 2 months earlier and I couldn't open it no matter how hard I tried. In this moment, all I could think was the fact that I had to leave as fast as possible. I jumped out the window without really thinking. I figured it was the only solution. Except I live on the 2nd floor, so I completely smashed my ankles on the landing. I started running in whichever way I could, and when I got a little bit further from the building, I looked back and a man was there, at my window, watching me run away. I thought 2 possible outcomes. Either the man was going to jump and chase me, except I wouldn't get far with my twisted ankles, or he would get scared of the height and be locked in my apartment. Thankfully, he picked option 2. I went to hide in a bush a little further and called the police, who arrived in just 10 minutes because I live close to the station. They pushed my door open and the man was there just sitting on my couch holding a kitchen knife waiting for me to come back. Like he didn't think I would call the police. They arrested the guy and later told me he had already been arrested for R word, attempted kidnapping and attempted murder. They also told me how everything had happened. Like I said, it was a very friendly neighborhood with mostly college students, so he got inside the building by other people holding the door for him. He then heard me telling my sister I was going to take a shower, which is why he was waiting in the bathroom for me. He picked my lock while I was taking out the trash. He apparently noticed me on school campus and followed me in my home several times before succeeding to actually come in. He stayed inside waiting for me because I had recently changed my phone and the previous one was still on the table, so he thought I didn't have a phone with me to call the police. I don't live there anymore, but after that, to get into the building, we all needed identification proving we lived there. Building IDs were created and we had to scan them every time, and it was the only way to get inside the building. Nothing bad happened in the neighborhood after that. It's back to being very peaceful and friendly. I am like astonished that they took action. Like I feel like if something, because I'm assuming I live in an apartment complex. I'm assuming something has happened here once or twice. It's kind of an old one. There had to have been something that happened, and it's like, you know, they don't just change things like that. You know, like it's like whatever. For something to happen, I mean, obviously like it's a huge thing that happened, don't get me wrong, but for like one thing to happen and they're like, okay, no, we're changing up the way that we do things, that's amazing. And oh my gosh, those last 2 stories were kind of similar. It was like they stalked you, broke in and like with a knife. Oh my god, that's weird. I didn't read any of these. I like skimmed like the first maybe half of each of the stories. I didn't even skim the last one. I just saved it and sent it to myself because all the top stories on Let's Not Meet are always like insane. And so I didn't read those last 2, so I didn't know they were so similar, but that's weird. That is all I'm gonna read for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any stories like this that you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. Like I said, these were not from my subreddit. I'm still gonna link them and their authors. These weren't from my subreddit. These were just from the Let's Not Meet subreddit. I have like my own little version of Let's Not Meet on my own subreddit. It's like kind of confusing, but whatever. And so don't go to these stories and post where these stories were posted. Where you should post is the very top link in my description. But I'm gonna go because like I said, I have a lot of rambling to do, so yeah, I'm gonna do that. But I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye! Okay, so I had the most chaotic trip to Dallas over the weekend. It is Wednesday when I'm filming this. I got home Sunday night, well, technically Monday morning, which I will get into, but it was stupid. It was so stupid. It was so chaotic. So basically, this whole thing started on Friday night. I was on the phone with my friend Dylan. He always calls me when he's like going home from work, whatever. And he was telling me about this event that was in Dallas the next day, so on Saturday. And he was like, yeah, it should be pretty fun. Like we're gonna go grab a couple drinks. There's like a beer pong tournament and all this stuff. And we were joking. We were like, should I fly into Dallas tonight? Like whatever. And I did. I ended up doing it. So I guess it wasn't a joke. I book a flight at like 3 o'clock for 7 o'clock. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to Dallas. Like called my sister. I'm like, can you watch my cats? I'm like, had to call out a volunteering. It was like the most impulsive thing in the entire world. And so I flew to Dallas, so I flew to Austin that night. Dylan was filming something in Austin, so I flew to Austin, and then we stayed in a hotel, but I didn't land until like 11:30. By the time he picked me up, we drive back to the hotel, we actually walk to 6th Street. I think that's what it's called. It's where all the bars are in Austin. It's like super popular. We walk over to 6th Street because our hotel's like a street over, and we get hot dogs from like a vendor on the street. They were really good. But we were both hungry, so we go do that. We get back to the hotel, we go to bed at like 1 o'clock, and then we wake up at 5 a.m. to drive to Dallas. If you know me, you know I get a minimum of like 10 to 12 hours of sleep every single night. So getting 4 hours, probably less than that because I was awake every single hour, rough. So we wake up at 5 to drive to Dallas because it's like a 3-hour drive, and we have to be at the event at 9 a.m. to sign up for this beer pong tournament. We get to the beer pong tournament around 9:30, and we're standing in the fucking sun. When I tell you this event was so poorly executed, I'm not even joking. I'm not gonna tell you what the event was. If you knew about it, then you knew about it. But if you don't know about it, it really doesn't matter. So we are standing in this fucking line just to sign up for beer pong. It's going so slow. Oh my God, I felt like I was at Disneyland. The slowest line in the beating sun at 9 a.m. Oh my God, for over an hour. And then they're like telling us when we're like almost up there, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're probably gonna close the line soon because we're filling up. And I was like, can you like not count the amount of people and then cut the line off so all these people back here aren't standing in the sun for another hour? Like, what the fuck? So luckily, we were one of the last teams that got to sign up. I didn't sign up, my friend signed up. I was just with him, so I'm just standing in the sun for nothing. Finally signed up, and then by the time we're out of this line, we have like no time to get back because we got there at like 9:30. We were there for over an hour. We had to be back at 11:45, so I didn't have that much time to go back to Dylan's place and get ready, and I needed to get ready. I was sweating my ass off. I was wearing sweatpants in the sun. Oh, I was sweaty and nasty. And I wanted to do my makeup. You know, I wanted to, whatever. So we drive back to Dylan's house. I had like 30 minutes to get ready, so I get ready really quickly. I do it. We drive back to the event. We stand in another line for maybe less time, but it was still really hot. And we get up and we get our badges. So keep in mind, we check in with our tickets and get badges. Then we have to get in a line for security, which understandable. Since Dylan was in the beer pong tournament, we got to go in a shorter line to security because they had to get inside so they could start the tourney. We get up to security and she goes, where's your ticket? And we were like, oh, we already checked in, like we have our badges. And she goes, no, I need to see your this bitch, she was a cunt. And then, so I have my QR code on my phone and mine works just fine. Everyone else, their tickets just disappear off SeatGeek. Like randomly just fucking disappear. Because Dylan didn't have a QR code, he never did for some reason. His just like said what day and time the event was at, but he never got a QR code, which was bizarre. But everyone who did not ever get a QR code, their ticket disappeared. So even though we had already checked in and they had checked our name and made sure we had tickets and given us a badge, she was like, you can't come in. And so I was like, what is going on? And so I had a QR code, so she was about to let me in, but I had my backpack because I have a bag. I'm a woman. I don't know. I bring a purse everywhere. And she goes, you can't bring that in. And I was like, why? And she was like, because you can't bring in anything but a clear bag. And I was like, no one ever fucking told us that. It was never on like the ticket. It was never on the information for the event. It was at an arena, like a sports arena. I don't know what it was. But she was like, it's like a sporting event. And I was like, okay, well, you could have like said something. And everyone waiting like had bags and backpacks, and I'm pretty sure like I'm the only person who got turned away. I don't know why. So then we had to walk back to the car in the heat to put my bag in the car, and we walk back and his ticket is still not there. So then we have to go to this box office with hundreds of other people because all their tickets are disappearing just to get a ticket, whatever, a physical copy of the ticket. It was fine. We were like not super far back in the line, so it didn't take that long. I have to burp. We get back to security, but at this point, security's completely empty. There were huge lines before, but it was completely empty because everyone's now in the line for the box office. They didn't even look. We didn't go back to that same mean lady. We went to like these other people. They didn't even look at our phones because we had badges. We had already, like, you know, this other lady was just, I hated her. So we get in without even like showing them anything. It was the most pointless. It was so stupid. We get into the event. There's a ambulance coming by. We get into the event. It's not like the most fun I've ever had in my entire life, but we did get free food because they gave us vouchers for the whole ticket thing. So we got free food, we grabbed a beer, and we just kind of hung out. I just had the weirdest cough attack. I'm cutting it out, you're not seeing that, but it was like, oh, weird. My eyes are watering now. So they play in the beer pong tournament. They go against this first team who's like, it was weird. They were so good. They were so good. And they were just like effortlessly throwing the ball like super high up too, and it just like would sink every time. And then Dylan, okay, so they were losing at first, obviously, like these people were really good. And then they came back from it and they won the game. Dylan had to do a trick shot. He bounced it off the fucking wall and sank it. I was like, well, like, what is happening? It was the weirdest comeback. It was so exciting though. I love beer pong. I love beer pong. And then they play their second game and we're playing against these people who are like basically hitting the ball out of the air before it even gets to the cups. Like just like blowing on it, like trying, whatever, like fucking with the ball before it gets into the cups. Because I understand if it like gets in the cup and the girl can blow it out of the cup if it's like circling, you know what I mean? Or like the guy can finger it. But they were like blowing it midair, which is like not allowed. And this was a $15,000 beer pong tournament. You would think that the refs would be like on top of things. And then there was one point, I'm gonna give you details so you guys can tell me what the fuck you would have done in this scenario. So it was last cup. Both of them had one cup. They made their cup, so it was their redemption. They both make it. And they were like, oh, that doesn't matter. That was technically just your redemption, even though they both made it. And so the refs come over and we're like asking them, and they go, oh, I don't know, I haven't played beer pong in 8 years. And I'm like, you're the ref for this shit. Like, you don't even know the rules. Like, this is crazy. Because we couldn't agree. Like, the two teams couldn't agree on what to do. So then they bring it to overtime. So each team gets 3 cups now. I've never heard of that ever. And I've played a lot of beer pong. It should have been their redemption because they made their redemption and then also made it. So it should have been their redemption now. But no, they were like cheating and shit. It was so annoying. It goes into this bullshit overtime. My friends end up losing. It was so frustrating. And so they were like, whatever, like, who fucking cares? Like, let's just leave. So we like walk around the event for a little bit. It really was, it was like cool, but it wasn't that cool. I didn't know anybody there, so it was like whatever. It was like a streamer thing, and I only watched Dead by Daylight. So we end up leaving. We go back to my friends. We have a couple drinks, and then I end up taking a nap because I'd only gotten like a couple hours of sleep that morning or that night. And then we go out that night. We get a table. We get bottles. It's super fun. I get fucked up. Fucked up. I am downing vodka Red Bulls as I do, and I am just completely obliterated. I was so bad. So then in the morning, okay, so I'm throwing up that night. Okay, I'm already going into so much detail about this story. I might as well go into every detail I could possibly think of. We go back to our friends after we go to this club, and I start drinking more. I start drinking beer, which is what really fucked me over. And we like are playing beer pong and stuff, and then Dylan was like, hey, I'm gonna call an Uber so we can go back to my place. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go throw up because I know I'm gonna throw up in the Uber. I always throw up in Uber, so I'm just gonna preemptively throw up. Is that a word, preemptively? I don't know. So I go puke a little bit, I make myself throw up, and then we get in the Uber. We're like 10 minutes into the Uber, and I was like, I gotta step outside. So we pull over on the side of the highway, I throw up a little bit, and then we get back in the car. We get to Dylan's house, I'm throwing up again, and then I try to lay down to go to sleep. The room is spinning, so I throw up again, and it was awful. If you know, you know. In the morning, I was still drunk when I woke up in the morning. We probably went to bed at 5. I woke up at 9, and I was like, oh yeah, oh no, I'm still feeling it. I was fucked up. So then I'm like sitting on my phone, and then at a certain point, I'm like, oh, I need to puke. Like staring at my phone was like nauseating. So I go and I throw up, but there's nothing in my system. So I'm just like dry heaving over the toilet. It was so bad. I'm sick the whole day. I am violently hungover the entire day. And then at one point, Dylan's girlfriend, because she was like up, she was visiting her family, she comes home and we had reservations to go get lunch. So I was like, I can't go. I'm gonna throw up. But I go anyways, which actually makes me feel a lot better getting out of the house and like getting food and stuff. Made me feel a lot better. And then my flight was that night. So then my flight happened. Everything was just crazy. So my flight gets delayed an hour, which is not a big deal. At least I got the notification before I went to the airport, so I wasn't just like sitting at my gate, you know what I mean? So I get to the airport, I get on my flight. When I tell you we are 15 minutes from Phoenix, and the pilot comes on and goes, we got a problem. And so all of us, I like take out my headphones, all of us are like, what's going on? And he goes, there's a storm in Phoenix, a really bad storm, and they've closed down Sky Harbor, which is the airport in Phoenix. They've closed down Sky Harbor, so we have to turn around and land in Tucson, which if you don't know, Tucson is about a 2-hour drive from Phoenix. So we land at the Tucson airport and we're all like at first I thought he was fucking kidding because he goes, we're going to land in Tucson. We'll be in Phoenix in 15 minutes. But I think he meant we'll be in Tucson in 15 minutes. So we were all like, was he joking? So I'm like texting everyone I know. I'm like, is there a storm? Is there a storm happening? Like, because I couldn't tell if he was joking or not. So I pull up the flight tracker on Southwest and I'm like watching our plane and I'm like, oh no, he's not joking. We're going to Tucson. We land in Tucson. We're there for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I don't really know how long it was. I was exhausted. We end up going back to Phoenix because none of us knew what was going to happen. None of us knew we were going to be stranded in Tucson for the night because there weren't many updates because it's weather. They can't predict the weather. So, I mean, they can technically, but you know what I mean. Like it's weather. I don't fucking know. So we weren't really getting many updates. Eventually he comes on. He's like, okay, Sky Harbor opened back up. We're going to head back to Phoenix. So it'll be like 20 minutes. We land in Phoenix and I was supposed to land around 8 o'clock. I parked at the airport. If you know the Phoenix airport, there's a SkyTrain. It's like this big train that takes you to terminals and takes you to parking lots and stuff like that, takes you throughout the whole airport. The SkyTrain was closed after 10 p.m. and so we landed at like, I don't even know what time we landed, somewhere after midnight. I don't know what time it was. And so I was like, I don't fucking know how to get to my car. Like, am I gonna have to Uber to my car? Which is like, you know, like a 2-minute Uber. And so I'm like looking on Southwest website or Sky Harbor's website and I'm like, how do I get to my vehicle? And I had to find a shuttle. So I'm like really stressed out because I just don't do well with that kind of stuff. If I don't know what I'm doing, I get really anxious. So I get off the plane, I go get my bag, so I checked a bag, which took forever to come out, by the way. And I'm like freaking out because I'm like, I just want to get on this fucking shuttle and get to my car and go home and sleep. So I get my bag. I find this like random couple who I overheard talking about like door 7, and I had seen on the website door 7 is where you would exit to find the shuttle. And so I was like, hey, I was like, do you guys happen to be going to like the parking lot? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, do you mind if I like tag along? There's like this older couple. I was like, do you mind if I tag along because I don't know what I'm doing? Like I've never taken the shuttle before. And they were like, yeah. They're like, we also don't know what we're doing. And I was like, oh, that's really comforting. So I go out there, I end up finding the shuttle before these people because they like weren't even crossing the street. It was weird. And I was like, I think we have to go over there because I could see all the buses. I was like, I think we have to go over there. And they were like, okay. And I like walked across the street and they like didn't. I don't know. And so I end up getting on this bus and then I get to my car. I don't get home until after 1. I'm so exhausted. I should have been home by 8:30 and I was at home at 1:30, you know. I was so tired. And then I also had stuff to do when I got home because I had to clean the litter boxes because I had been gone all weekend. I had to like refill their food and water. My sister came and checked on them, but it was like I still had to do like she didn't clean their litter boxes and I just like topped everything off. Like they were taken care of, don't worry. My sister stopped by Saturday and Sunday to do Timo's inhaler. So yeah, she was here, but I still had to take care of all the random shit. So I didn't go to bed till like 2, I don't think, maybe, I don't know. I don't know, but I was so tired. So I slept until like 11 on Monday, which I do not do. I wake up at like 8 or 9 every day. I slept until almost 11. I was just so exhausted from the weekend. And when I woke up, I felt so sick. And I was like, am I still hungover? Do I have COVID? Like, what is going on? So I ended up taking like 3 naps that day because I was so tired. And then yesterday on Tuesday, because it's Wednesday, on Tuesday, I woke up at like 9, but I went to bed at 8, so I slept for a solid 13 hours. Still felt really sick. Woke up today. I was gonna get a COVID test yesterday, but I didn't because I filmed yesterday, but I didn't like the video, so I'm not uploading it. I'm refilming today. But I went to Target today to get COVID tests, and I don't have COVID. I feel a lot better today, but I was like, I'm still gonna test myself because I went on a trip. I took 2 tests. I was negative for both of them. So I don't have COVID, but yeah, that was my weekend. It's chaotic. I just spent a long time telling that story, a long time. I told you it was going to be a long ramble. I told you I could have made a whole video about this, but that would have been stupid because there was like no point to the story. I just felt like rambling about my weekend. I'm glad I went. Like I had fun on Saturday. It was, okay, so the event was like a shit show at the beginning, but like once we got inside, it was pretty fun. The beer pong tourney was cool. And then going out that night was super fun and getting to see my friends who like I hadn't seen in so long who live in Dallas. That was fun. But it was just like, I feel like so many things went wrong that I was like, why am I here? But it was fun. I'm glad I went. It was a very impulsive trip, but if I hadn't have gone, I would have sat at home all weekend and I wouldn't have had anything to tell you about So there you go, you're welcome, I did it for you. But I'm gonna go, because I don't know what the fuck I just said for like 20 minutes. Nor really wants my attention. So I'm gonna go. I love you guys. See ya!